2024 was a surprisingly good year for anime. Why do I say surprisingly? Well, that's because 2023 was so incredible that it sort of overshadowed this year, to the point that people are generally describing this as a pretty mid-year for anime. But considering this was supposedly a weaker year, we were blessed with quite a few bangers, although there were some clangers too. Ninja Kamui had a great first episode before falling off a cliff. Uzumaki also had a great first episode before falling off a cliff. Blue Lock wasn't even able to climb the cliff since they wouldn't have animated the characters climbing. You know, considering this was the best selling manga of 2023, you'd think the anime would be more than just PNGs. However, if their aim was to make a good audiobook, then I think they delivered there. Rick and Morty got the anime adaptation that no one wanted, and after watching it, I'm still puzzled by its existence. Terminator received the most boring anime of the year, and Suicide Squad certainly had the most divisive anime of this year. Personally, I liked it, but it was very stupid and something you will lose brain cells watching. The misfit of Demon King Academy severed all ties with me after its CGI dragons. That time I got reincarnated as a slime reminded us how boring it is to sit through meetings, and Tower of God returned. Let's just say that the studio has a lot to answer for. This is also just ignoring how weird things got this year too.
Sugar, spice, and everything nice. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect little girl. But Professor Utonium accidentally added an extra ingredient to the concoction, Chemical X.
Which led to this being made. But as I said, there were some good anime too. Classroom of the Elite came back with my favourite season so far. There was a cute romance anime that wonderfully showcased what life is like for the deaf in A Sign of Affection. Blue Exorcist finally came back to me.
You're as beautiful as the day I lost you.
Undead Unluck was underrated and underappreciated. One Piece was still One Piecing, had a nice fan letter too. Haikyuu and Overlord went to the movies. Muzan went to Bollywood. My Hero Academia is still the biggest modern anime that I haven't seen. I think I'm going to hold out until the final season, which just so happens to be the next one. Sadly, I have had the ending spoiled for me. Apparently, every single manga this year had a bad ending if you listen to manga readers. Windbreaker, on the other hand, got the adaptation that Tokyo Revengers fans always wanted.
Old and busted, new hotness.
This is something else that Takabichi will cry over. There was a nice bartender anime. Black Butler returned.
You're as beautiful as the day I lost you.
San Euphonium came back for its final season to let everyone know that Reina and Kamiko were nothing more than just roommates. Or at least, that's what history will tell us. Netflix had a golf anime that's pretty good. Russian Alia introduced us to anime's Deadpool.
I am soaking wet right now.
Nier Automata got a good adaptation. ReZero came back, bigger and better than ever. Fairy Tail's back.
You're as beautiful as the day I lost you.
This time with animation by JC staff, this franchise has now officially had more studios working on it than you've had bitches. Sorry, there was some friendly fire there, I think. Unfortunately, this was also the year that Akira Toriyama, the beloved and iconic manga author, passed away. He was the creator of beloved works like Dr. Slump, Sandland, and of course, Dragon Ball, as well as being the character designer for Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, and Blue Dragon. His passing sent shockwaves for both the community and the world, and his death marks the end of one of the most influential and iconic creators to ever live. Toriyama was sadly not the only mangaka to pass this year. Kazuo Umezu, known for Makoto-chan and Hyoryu Kyoshitsu, passed away at the age of 88 this year. Tomohiro Marukawa, known for the world of Naruwe, passed away at the age of 53 this year. Hinako Ashihara, known for Peace, Kanojo no Koikyu, and Sand Chronicles, passed at 50 this year. Haro Takahashi, known for Tiger Mask, Silver Fang, and Inspector Gadget, passed at 76 this year. Mutsumi Inomata, known for Windaria, passed at 63 this year. And Kazu Yuzuki, known for Mizumachi, passed at 70 this year. This was also the year that we lost a major. Atsuko Tanaka passed away at 61 this year. And we also lost singer-songwriter Sayuri this year. She was only 28. Before I start my list and bring an end to this very long intro, I want to just clarify two things. One, to make this list shorter, any anime that haven't finished their current season and are continuing into next year will not make my list. So anime like Re:Zero, Orb on the Movements of the Earth, and Blue Box won't be on this list despite being great, as they can show up next year. And secondly, this is just my personal list. It will differ from yours, so try not to care too much about the placements. Instead, take this as a list of recommendations as opposed to a list of objective quality. And thirdly, I've already made videos on some of the anime that I mentioned in this video, so if you want to know some of my more in-depth thoughts on certain anime, then check the description for this video where you'll see links to all those videos. With that out of the way, go grab a bucket of popcorn, get a nice fizzy drink, grab your favourite deer, and let's take a look at the best anime of 2024. The Elusive Samurai snuck up on a lot of people this year, really taking them by surprise, but I actually had my eye on this anime from the moment it was announced. Firstly, because of the title, The Elusive Samurai. It sounds shonen-y. I like a good dose of action anime in my weekly schedule. Then they tell me it's an anime by Cloverworks, one of the best studios around right now. They're the studio behind anime like My Dress Up Darling, Bunny Girl Senpai, Bocce the Rock, and Windbreaker. They're constantly pushing the boundary of the animation medium and always experimenting with the visuals in their works, so of course, their name caught my eye. But what really captured my interest was the fact that this was the next series from mangaka Yusei Matsui, the man responsible for Assassination Classroom, one of my favourite anime. Oh no. Yes, the silly yellow octopus anime is good. The Elusive Samurai follows Tokiyuki, the boy meant to replace his father as Shogun. He lives a very cushy life where he spends his days evading his advisors, so he doesn't have to do any work. However, things are thrown into disarray after a shocking and surprisingly gory coup, they even show kids getting beheaded, wipes out Tokiyuki's clan. Contemplating joining his dead relatives, Tokiyuki is stopped by this weirdo priest who promises to help Tokiyuki regain his power, as well as prophesizing that he'll become a great hero. Thus begins this tale. Now, to be completely honest, neither the story nor the characters are the strongest of the year. Both are still clearly in the early stages by the end of this first season. However, what cemented this anime on my list is the animation. In my opinion, The Elusive Samurai has the best animation of the year. Not only is it always fluid, but it often changes too to either heighten the scene or to empower a joke. It is so good that I had to include this anime on my list. It is jaw-dropping, and you should watch this anime purely for that reason, because otherwise you're missing out on a visual feast. What are you doing? Not to be outdone, we have the very beautiful Makaine, Too Many Losing Heroines, courtesy of A1 Pictures. This is definitely one of the most polished and high quality anime of the year, though that's not surprising as some of the staff from Kaguya-sama were working on this. Have you ever experienced the pain of loving someone and them not loving you back? No, me either, but apparently it's a very common occurrence, and that very real tragedy of life is highlighted here. In many pieces of entertainment, we see lots of love triangles, two girls falling over the same guy, both for their own reasons and motivations for loving him. But in every instance, there's always a winner and always a loser, with the loser often being discarded and forgotten. Makaine shows what the losers, or more accurately, the losing heroines, do after they are rejected. We watch as these three girls all come to terms with watching the man they pine for sweep another girl off their feet, and we get a very realistic sense of how it completely crushes them. What I like best is that each girl has a completely different situation and relationship with the guy who rejects them. This means that you will likely be able to identify with at least one of them. And for people who don't have much experience with romance, there's also someone here for you to relate to in the form of the main character, who all three girls flock to in search of support. He doesn't really care about romance, or at least he says so, but he does care for each of these girls, and never hesitates to try and lift their spirits. He's a genuinely nice guy, but this also adds another wrinkle of tragedy to this series. It's implied that all three of these girls may end up developing feelings for the main character down the line. And if that is the case, then that means at least two of them are going to end up becoming losing heroines once again. It'll be heartbreaking watching any of these girls lose once more, especially Kamui, since she was my favourite. But that is what Makaine is all about, reflecting the real pain of love and the negativity associated with it. And that's the reason that a lot of people fell in love with this series, and why this is a lot of people's anime of the year. Alright, let's get the checklist out for this one. An actually good lead female character? Check. A male love interest that doesn't suck? Check. A unique and interesting story and setting? Check. Pretty good animation? Check. Openings that people actually like? Check. The Apothecary Diaries has all the necessary ingredients for a masterclass anime. This series follows Mao Mao, apparently everyone's favourite female anime character. She's an apothecary's daughter, which is basically a pharmacist for those who don't know what that word means. One day, Mao Mao was sold into the imperial court, eventually being promoted to a lady-in-waiting for the emperor's favourite concubine. Utilising her knowledge of medicine and poison, Mao Mao becomes an important asset, gaining her the attention of the very wise and very handsome eunuch Jinshi, a man who has every intention of taking advantage of her skills for both the imperial court and himself. This is one of those shows that's just objectively good. Obviously not everyone's going to like it, but this anime has a very unique premise and executes it very well. And for me, the second half of the season, which is what aired this year, was the superior part. Mainly due to having a brilliant antagonist who I couldn't help but genuinely feel sorry for. If you want a break from the usual action-heavy anime, or just want something a little more thought-provoking than the usual series on offer, then I highly recommend checking this show out. And with season 2 airing in January, now would be a great time to catch up.
Of course, it was my way of giving you my thanks.
Oh?
You were jealous, no? 'Twas thanks for that. Do not let it bother you. Males are a common breed, everyone a jealous idiot. And yet, females are idiots in turn for enjoying the jealousy. The world is filled to the brim with idiots.
Oh, it's so good to have these two back again. It has been 15 years since the original Spice and Wolf.
You're as beautiful as the day I lost you.
I am so glad that they remade this anime. And I'm so glad that Studio Passion actually have a series that you don't have to feel like a degenerate for watching. At least most of the time. Spice and Wolf is the tale of Kraft Lawrence, a travelling merchant, and Holo, his wolf god companion, as they go on a journey to try and return Holo to her home in the north. Along the way they must conduct business to stay afloat, as well as discovering more about Holo and her home, as they are unsure of its exact location. All the while, these two find themselves getting closer and closer. Now I won't lie, sometimes the economics and the trading and the planning went over my head. But it didn't matter to me because I was so enamoured by the chemistry and relationship between Holo and Lawrence. These two are perfect for one another, and their personalities both clash and support one another. That's not to imply that I think the show did a bad job of explaining the economics and the trading, because most of the time I did get it, but every now and then my eyes did kind of glaze over a little and I started to think about other things. Good thing the glorious soundtrack by Kevin Penkin always managed to wake me up and regain my attention. I'm glad this anime returned, and I'm also glad that all the voice actors returned too, both sub and dub. Most of the anime on this list are anime that I watched in Japanese with subtitles, but this is one of the exceptions. J. Michael Tatum is a fantastic voice actor, so I was more than happy to see him back as Lawrence, and Brina Palencia is iconic as Holo. So if you are someone who can stomach a dub, then this one has my seal of approval. Fortunately, it seems like we won't have to wait 15 years for more Spice and Wolf content, because the second season has already been announced. Fingers crossed this series gets a full adaptation, because the source material is one of the highest rated works on MAL, and I don't know what I'll do if I have to wait any longer.
Kazuma, sir, you rang for me?
I would like my morning coffee, please, Sebastian.
My name is Heidel, sir.
If you could, Heidel.
Kazuma, the world's greatest feminist, and the rest of the gang are back for more Konosuba. It has been 5 years since the last movie, and 7 years since the last season, so you know what that means.
You're as beautiful.
Honestly, I was a little apprehensive about season 3 after not really caring about the Megumin spin-off, but luckily I had nothing to fear as these 4 are still the same morons that I know and love. This may not have been the best anime of the year, with the most thought-provoking narrative, or even the deepest of characters. It may not have had the best animation of the year either, although the animation was surprisingly strong. It's nice to see that the budget was spared for something other than Kazuma's hands for once. But for me, Konosuba was definitely the funniest anime of the year, and that's why it made my list.
Kazuma, sir, you rang for me?
I would like my morning coffee, please, Sebastian.
My name is Heidel, sir.
Out of every anime on my list, this was the one that I struggled with placing the most. I enjoyed The Dangers in My Heart Season 1, but Season 2 is just on another level. And if you were going to proclaim that this is the greatest romance anime of all time, then I wouldn't argue. That's how good Season 2 is. You see these strings on screen? Well, these are attached to your heart, and all The Dangers in My Heart wants to do is tug on them. Every episode of this anime makes you go, aww. Considering he was initially presented as an edgy shy boy, it was nice to see Ichikawa slowly come out of his shell this season and show off just how gentle and kind he is. The best thing about this show is how a lot is left unsaid. For example, when Ichikawa and Yamada go on a date to a cafe, Ichikawa gets a black coffee even though he doesn't like it because he doesn't want her to see him enjoying sweet things because in his head it's less manly and appealing to her. So later in season 2, Yamada plays a game where she'll press 2 buttons on a vending machine. One will get her the drink that she likes and the other will get her a drink that she doesn't like. It's just obviously random chance that the drink she doesn't like happens to be black coffee. So she presses the button and surprise surprise, she loses. And instead of drinking it, she gives it to Ichikawa, much to his confusion. It's never stated, and if you forgot about the cafe date then you may not realise, but she did all of that to go in a roundabout way of giving him something that she thinks he likes. Since she remembered the date, even though some viewers, as well as Ichikawa, may not remember all the details. There's also the time where she stands lower than him on the stairs, even preventing him from going lower than her. She doesn't reveal why, but you can infer that it's due to insecurity over her height, because Yamada is very tall for a woman, and Ichikawa just so happens to be quite short, and Yamada is insecure over her height, so she likely enjoyed having Ichikawa being taller than her for once, and also didn't want him to go in front of her and make the height difference even wider. On top of all of this, The Dangers in My Heart features one of the best confession scenes that I've ever witnessed. Bravo! This is a romance anime where the romance works because it feels real. These 2 characters actually feel like they care for one another and both cry and get upset when the other one does. I swear, if this anime doesn't get a 3rd season, then I'd probably be really upset. If you're a fan of romance anime and you haven't seen this, then what are you doing? Wait a minute, isn't this show supposed to be mid? How did it get so high? That's what you might be thinking if you saw all the chatter around this show. But the truth is, this was one of the biggest anime of the year, and for good reason. This was one of the most engaging and heart-pumping shows of the year, with action scenes that keep you on the edge of your seat, and Taito Ban, the voice actor for Jinwoo, gave in my opinion, the best voice performance of the entire year. Solo leveling takes place in a world similar to ours, except here these portals keep popping up, allowing creatures from another world to invade. Conventional weaponry has no effect on these monsters, but luckily for us, random citizens are bestowed with power, allowing them to fight back and close these portals. However, there is a catch. You cannot improve these abilities at all. Whatever strength you get, you're stuck with, leading to a ranking system where the strongest are S and the lowest are E. After a very strange dungeon crawl, Jinwoo discovers that he's been bestowed with a very strange ability, the ability to actually increase his level. Thus he is now solo leveling. Is this the most intellectually stimulating or well written show? No, but it is very entertaining. This show brings heaps of hype every episode. Yes, there were better written shows this year, but sometimes those shows can dip their toes into boring territory despite how great they can be, whereas solo leveling was just fun. Sometimes the dumber show is the more enjoyable one, like how a dumb person can be more fun to hang out with compared to a smarter person. What I'm trying to say is that I can't wait for season 2 to start in a couple weeks. Everyone's favourite least controversial show returned for round 2 this year. I've got to be completely honest, I did not enjoy season 2 of Mushoku Tensei as much as season 1, and it very nearly did not make my list. However, Mushoku Tensei had one of the best episodes of the entire year, and that episode alone cemented this anime on my list. I'm not going to give any details about the episode because anyone who watched it knows which one I'm talking about. All I will say is that it was foul releasing that episode on Father's Day. Creating art can be a very challenging and often isolating experience. An experience that rarely feels rewarding and instead is one where it feels like motivation is stripped of you with each failure. Why go on? Why try? Is there any point to this? All these thoughts and emotions are perfectly conveyed in the film Look Back, a story about Ayumi Fujino, a young girl who desperately wants to get better at art after falling short when compared to another student. This film will be very relatable for many in the way that it perfectly illustrates the frustration one feels when they're not good enough, and the hope they lose as they question whether they'll ever be good enough. Hopelessness and overcoming that is ultimately what this film is all about, not just when it comes to art, but also when it comes to facing tragedy too. This is a beautiful film, both in the narrative provided by Chainsaw Man's Tatsuki Fujimoto and in the animation, with over half the film's key animation frames being done by writer-director Kiyotaka Oshiyama, and its soundtrack is equally stunning. Look Back is a film that will stick with you and is very deserving of all the acclaim that it has achieved. Here's another of the hotly anticipated shows that delivered this year. In a world where kaiju attacks are just another Tuesday, humanity has created the Defense Force, an elite task force with the sole purpose of wiping out the kaiju. Two children, Kafka and Mina, make a vow to one another that they'll one day join that very same task force and kill every kaiju in existence. Decades later, Mina has accomplished that goal and become both an icon and an inspiration to the citizens of Japan. Kafka though? Sadly, he was unable to achieve his dream, and instead he works as part of the cleanup crew, mopping up the messes left behind by Mina and her co-workers. He's given up on ever becoming what he set out to be. But one day a new worker shows up with the exact same dream as Kafka, and after a little encouragement from his new friend, Kafka decides to try once again. However, there's a slight snag to all of this. See, Kafka ended up having a midnight snack one night. Leftovers? A slice of cake? The Lindefeld Country House Hotel for Birds chocolate pudding? No. Instead, Kafka ended up eating a kaiju, which resulted in becoming Godzilla Man. This anime had a much lighter tone than I was anticipating, but I still loved it. The characters are genuinely likeable, and the animation is spectacular thanks to Production IG, and the story they've set up seems like it could be heading in an unexpected direction due to a shock reveal near the end of the season. I'm very interested to see where it goes in the already confirmed Season 2. If you don't want to end up behind on another big anime, then I recommend catching up to this as soon as you can. I have something perhaps a little blasphemous to confess. I wasn't a massive fan of Oshinoko Season 1. I definitely think it was good, but it just didn't click with me as much as I was hoping it would. Luckily, I vastly preferred Season 2. I may just be a very small YouTuber, but I could really relate to a lot of the characters in this season. Like Look Back, this anime deals with a lot of artists, and you get to witness as they struggle with being in the industry and with the reception to their creations. I love getting a little peek behind the curtain and getting to see how people collaborate and clash. Honestly, it made me wonder how the manga feels about this anime. Are they satisfied with it, or are there things that disappointed them? Are they happy with the Kaguya-sama anime, since that's also one of their works? Personally, I think Doga Kobo have done a fantastic job of adapting this work, with the animation being a clear standout for me. The scene dedicated to Malt was just incredible, and I'm even now on board with the father plotline, something that felt a little too melodramatic for me in Season 1. But now it's become something quite interesting. With Season 3 around the corner, this time shifting the focus away from Aqua and towards his sister Ruby, this is another major hit series that you don't want to miss out on. What happens when you get the creator of Danmachi, the director of Black Clover, the composer of both Haikyuu and My Hero Academia, and the studio behind Gintama? Well, you get Wistoria, Wand and Sword. Some of you may be surprised to see this so high on my list, considering its similarities to other IPs. It's another story of a magicless boy in a world ruled by magic, who with the power of muscle is able to compete with and even be better than the other students, yet is still looked down upon by others. Yes, it's just like Asta from Black Clover, and Mash from Mashal, and Batman from the Justice League, but what makes this version of that same story so good is the execution. This is an anime where everyone involved is a master of their craft, which results in Wistoria having some of the strongest cinematography, direction, and animation of the year. And its characters and narrative may not be the most unique, but the story of a young boy who wishes to achieve greatness so that he can be by the side of the girl he loves is a tale as old as time, and something anyone can get behind. Heck, it works for Kaiju No.8. This anime was so genuinely entertaining that I'm going to end up watching an anime with the awful title, Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon? They have the same author. With Season 2 already confirmed, I recommend checking this out if you're in the mood for a more casual popcorn flick series. "13 years. It has been 13 years since Season 2 of Kimi ni Todoke. I never thought we'd see the day, and I'm also surprised that it was still Production IG animating this. Now some people may be upset that we only got 5 episodes for this season, but when every episode is over an hour long, you can't really complain. It genuinely felt like I was watching a movie each episode. And unlike other romance anime, where they only nail one romance, this show nailed 3, and even brought me to tears in one episode. This was a massive step up over the previous 2 seasons, and a great reminder that romance fans ate good this year. Let's just hope that it doesn't take another 13 years for us to get Season 4. Who'd have thought that an anime about eating dungeon monsters would be so good? Not me. Yet this anime completely surpassed my expectations. It's a slow burn show, but over time, more and more ingredients are added, fleshing out a unique world and adding depth to a great core cast. Laios and the team are on a mission to rescue his sister after she has been devoured by a dragon. Due to how the dungeon works, anyone who's died in the dungeon can be revived as long as their body is intact. If Fallon is ingested before they can reach her, then they'll have no chance of saving her. In a race against time, the crew make the decision that they'll survive off the creatures inhabiting the dungeon. What's fascinating about this show is how much thought was put into every aspect of it, about the monsters that they cook, about the history of the world, and about the characterization of these characters. And it's all aided by some incredible animation, courtesy of Studio Trigger. You may find the first couple of episodes a little boring, but I urge you to persevere because this is a very unique series, and you would be missing out by avoiding it due to assumptions surrounding its premise. Plus, they've already announced Season 2, so prepare for dessert. You might not have heard of this anime, but it began in 2008 and is still going 7 seasons strong with a couple movies and specials too. It's a nice chill anime all about confronting loneliness. Go watch it, it is awesome. Also, the last time Natsume showed up was 6 years ago, so you know what I have to do.
Banji no 次の一手といきますか。挽回。
Yeah, Negro. That's all you had to say.
I am gobsmacked by how good this season of Bleach was. I adore Bleach. It is one of my favourite anime, but even I didn't expect it to reach the heights it did this season. Frieren even went as far as making another sub-studio for this franchise, and it shows in how good the animation is. The soundtrack, the cinematography, the direction, and the voice acting are all still on another level, and the extra content that Frieren and Kubo have added has only made the show better, and this is major new stuff too, not even just an extra scene here and there. Sometimes, even as much as half an episode is completely anime original. In fact, all the footage that I've used, aside from Shunsui's Bankai, has been anime original content. I genuinely don't know what more Pro could have done in this adaptation, and I can't wait to see what both they and Kubo cook up in the final core. Missing Vinland Saga? Then I have the perfect replacement. Kingdom is an anime that is so well written that it was able to overcome its very poor first season that made the horrendous decision to animate everything with anime CGI. I mean, just look at this. This is horrible. Fortunately, as time went on, the decision was made to return to classic 2D animation, allowing this series to flourish. Kingdom is all about a boy called Shin, who dreams of being the greatest general in the world, as well as aiding the King Ase in uniting the warring nations so that they can form China. By season 5, Shin is within touching distance of his goal, with the latest battle and the current general, the Twisted Conky, that he served under, being the only thing standing in his way. Season 5 features what is perhaps my favourite scene in all anime, alongside some of my favourite characters, and with Hiroyuki Sawano on the soundtrack, I have no complaints there. This is one of the smartest shows that I've ever watched, with every strategy and tactical decision feeling earned, and not just something that the writer pulled out of his arse. It's also one of the most underrated, never gaining the recognition it sorely deserves. Overcoming this show's first season is definitely a challenge, but if you can do it, then you'll bear witness to something truly special. Fingers crossed they announce season 6 soon, because that's apparently the best arc in the manga. Dandadan. A story about cock, balls, and love. Potentially the biggest new anime of the year, and also one of its best. A tale of two students slowly falling for each other as they fight both aliens and ghosts. Dandadan has it all. A good romance, great action, laugh out loud comedy, wacky and likeable characters, excellent music, a gilf, and fantastic animation brought to you by Science Saru, who after years of making bangers have now had their name firmly placed in the spotlight. Tatsuki Fujimoto just knows how to pit them. This is the third of his assistants to have a massive success, and this is definitely my favourite of the three. Dandadan is a strange show that will have you on the edge of your seat. It will make you go wow, it will make you laugh, and surprisingly, it will make you cry. This anime had the best romance of the year. I did say that this was a good year for romance fans, with Momo and Okarun having some of the strongest chemistry that I've ever seen, with their weirdness making it really easy to connect with them. This series also had the episode of the year in my opinion, bringing emotions out of me that I never expected a show about banana-obsessed aliens who need their milk cuds. This anime is the full package, and I need more of it, especially if it means that I get to see more of Grandma. Yatagarasu, anyone? Yatagarasu is easily the most underrated anime of this year. If there's any anime on this list that you haven't heard of, then it's this one. In the kingdom of Yamauchi, people have the ability to transform into these three-legged crows known as Yatagarasu. These people are ruled over by the Kinu. This series follows Wakamiya, the prince set to become the next Kinu. Interestingly, Wakamiya is regarded as a true Kinu, meaning that he has been bestowed with supernatural abilities, and also means that he can take the throne over his older brother, leading to a rift forming between the two, as well as some in the court plotting the death of Wakamiya, so his brother, who happens to be the son of the Empress, compared to Wakamiya, who is the son of a lowly concubine, can ascend the throne, and with Wakamiya needing to choose a bride from one of the four houses to cement his transition into rulership, now is the perfect opportunity to take him out. Throw in Yukiya, the prince's new attendant, a boy who wishes to be as far away from nobility as possible, and you have a recipe for disaster. This show works because of two things, its story and its characters. Firstly, its two leads, Wakamiya and Yukiya, are great. They really do not click at first due to Wakamiya's cold and callous personality, really annoying the no-nonsense Yukiya. But over time, they do form a bond, with this prince who has very few trustworthy allies finding a friend in this bemused boy. On top of this, the supporting characters are great. I can't go into details because there are so many twists and turns, with many characters' allegiances and true motivations changing as the series progresses, but you will find yourself invested in them too. Then there's the narrative, with so many moving pieces and backstabbing and politicking, you may even find yourself getting a little lost, especially as this anime sometimes goes entire episodes before answering something that is set up earlier, and its world is one that you can only find in Yatagarasu. This is a very intriguing show, and one that shouldn't stay under your radar any longer. Frieren is my favourite anime, period, and it has only one season with a second on the way, so how was it not taking the top spot for me? Every aspect of this show is a 10 out of 10. Animation, beautiful. Soundtrack, beautiful. Characters, deep and compelling. Narrative, thought-provoking and enriching. This is the highest rated anime on my anime list for good reason. We are watching as this socially inept elf and her two awkward companions go on this journey of self-discovery as they retrace the steps that she took years prior when she accompanied the hero party in defeating the Demon King. It's a story that will punch you in the balls in the first episode, leaving you a weeping mess, and will then wow you with an action spectacle in a series that didn't necessarily need it. It's an extremely polished show that makes you confront your own mortality and how you choose to live your life and treat those around you. You'll be sad just to see a character leave the group because they become like family to you, and like everyone else, you can't bear to say goodbye because you don't know when you'll see them again. This show even makes flashbacks good, with the show's best character appearing almost exclusively in these flashbacks. Every character is good in this. There are characters who show up for half an episode with more depth and history in them than any character from the shows that I mentioned before this one. I'm glad that Frieren has been a massive hit, and I pray that it stays that way. Madhouse, for the love of everything, please be the ones doing season 2. Do not have passed this off to another studio like you love to do, because I'll write a very angry comment on my Twitter account that I set up 2 weeks ago if you do. If there was one anime on this list that you had to watch, then it's this one. Please, please watch Frieren. And with that, this super long video is over. Finally, I can rest now. Before I go, I do want to just state who I think the best studio of the year was, which I'm actually giving to 2 studios. The first is Prero. They made 3 anime this year, and all 3 made my list. And the second would be A1 Pictures. They began the year with Solo Leveling, one of the biggest hits of the year. Then they had Mashle, which had the opening of the year. They did the Nier Automata anime, which was an actually good adaptation. They did Makaine, one of the most polished series this year. And they capped the year off with SAO Alternative Season 2. A show initially considered a Studio 3 Hertz anime until A1 Pictures gobbled up that studio and made it one with them. 2 great studios that delivered the goods this year. But do you agree with that? In fact, do you agree with this list? Was there any major anime I missed, like Monogatari for example? What was your favourite anime of the year? Comment below to let me know, and whilst you're down there, do be sure to hit the like button. This video took a long time, and I'd appreciate the algorithmic support a like would provide. And also, because I'm still sick, I've still got this cold even after a few weeks. If you want to see more from me, then do consider subscribing. I'd love to have you become a regular viewer. But until next time, I've been Liam Nidus. Thank you so much for watching this video, I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!